Across the board, left to right, here are our picks. Oklahoma, after Baylor beat them 38-35 at home against West Virginia, who may be, who knows, out of gas, as is possibly head coach Neil Brown. Craig?
I mean, this is the easiest game to pick on this entire list. West Virginia has shown that it can be scrappy, but at the same time, I can't help but see most of the conversation that's West Virginia football based all be around the head coach and whether or not he's a good fit for the program at this point. And most of that conversation seemingly steering in the direction of, no, he's not. We need somebody else. Hire Hugh Freeze or hire, whoever the name is. So, Oklahoma, I'm probably the lowest on them in terms of like confidently picking them in games that I've been in years as anybody else would be because they've been so good for so long. But even still, I just think West Virginia's in even a lower spot. And give me the Sooners to bounce back after a very angry Brent Venables last week, was clearly frustrated with some of the things that they weren't able to do against Baylor. So I think that they'll have a good performance and get a win over the Mountaineers, get bowl eligible.
Yeah, I don't think Dylan Gabriel's going to have 3 interceptions again, but West Virginia's defense, the one thing they have done in the games that they've won is create turnovers. But, yeah, I think he'll just be too much for that. I mean, they're scrappy, and I can see those running backs in particular, getting some, a good yards against that Oklahoma defense, which isn't great against the run. But I just think Oklahoma, after losing at home, really.
Would you change your mind if it was in Morgantown?
It is in Morgantown, isn't it?
Yeah, it is in Morgantown.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Well, hell, that's how much I was paying attention. I picked Oklahoma, so it wouldn't change mine. Mississippi, Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin, Alabama, and Roll Tide.
Alabama has lost 2 games by a total of 4 points, and while they are certainly not deserving of the CFP, let's not pretend like they're in Oklahoma situation where the wheels fell straight off for a little while of the cart. But I do think that there's a reason that Nick Saban beats his old assistants most of the time. I think this will be a really, really good game. I just don't see Alabama losing 2 games in a row. I just don't, and that's why I picked the Tide here.
I just think Alabama's a better team overall. Quinshon Judkins has been, obviously very good, putting up, big numbers throughout the season as Ole Miss has become more of a running attack this year. Ole Miss is a really good football team. But I don't know. I was hesitant with this one just because last week I was convinced that Alabama was going to be like prime playoff ready, focused, killer instinct driven Alabama, and they weren't. And it's clear that like you can't just flip that switch and that they just are who they are. And they've got a very talented quarterback and they've got a bunch of very other talented pieces, but they're just not the team that they have been in years prior. And there's just something a little bit off with this group, whether that's Saban heading for a retirement lane or, whatever the case may be for why that is. They're just not quite that typical elite level that we've expected. And even still, yes, I'm expecting them to bounce back and beat Ole Miss. I am very curious like how competitive this game does actually become by the end of it, or how close this is down the stretch. But, yeah, give me Alabama.
Alabama's a pretty heavy favorite in this game as well, according to Vegas.
I think so, yeah.
I think it's not well over double digits, but Alabama, I take the Tide. Yeah, I like Craig said, I thought last night you'd see kind of a finely tuned engine that would play a little bit cleaner, a little smarter, but they are not a very smart football team. They make mistakes at the most inopportune times, which has always been like the anti-Nick Saban Alabama, so I take the Tide. UCF, what's a great game in Tulane?
Yeah, this is it, Tulane. I'm picking UCF. I think they've woken up a little bit after that thumping they got on the road. The last time they were on the road at East Carolina. This is a more athletic team than Tulane. Tulane might be better at the little things under Willie Fritz than UCF is under Gus Malzahn right now, but I'm picking the Knights to continue their role here. I think this will be a fantastic game. Tulane is really tough mentally. They're really tough on defense, but I do think I like the Knights here to win another close one.
Yeah, I struggle with this one. I mean, I think UCF will be full go at quarterback. I think that's the expectation. If you got Rice Plumlee available, then I think he's going to be able to run a little bit and give you a different look. But, I mean, this has been a couple of teams that have had, relatively or give up relatively few points defensively from what I remember looking at. And I think that this is a really curious ball game. I was really leaning towards Tulane earlier in the week, and I don't know how much of that was the fact that this is in New Orleans or what, but I do think Tulane's going to have to whip the ball around a bit, and I like UCF to be able to prevent that, and keep this a somewhat low-scoring game. And ultimately, I like their offense a little bit better, especially on the ground. So I went UCF.
I just like Willie Fritz, and not because he joined the show, because we'll get Gus Malzahn on at some point too. But I just have a feeling. I think this Tulane team's got a little grit to it. Kind of reminds me a little bit of maybe 2019 Baylor, something like that. I don't know, but I'll take Tulane. Baylor at home against Kansas State. I mentioned this. We all give our predictions, and some now have been battered into because when they have picked one team or the other that Baylor has won, that they are now in a point where they're scared to give their honest opinion, Paul. In the site, they pick now the opponent because it's helped Baylor win for some reason. Baylor, I think the key here, no matter what you want to say yes to, special teams. Noah Rauschenberg. What he's done on kicks. Now, it's going to be weather, it's going to be cold, whatever. Don't kick the nose. Although UT shut him down inside the 20, 25-yard line many times. He has three career kick returns for touchdowns. They have 2 punt returners who have both taken a punt back for a touchdown. So Isaac Power, rocket launcher time. I think whoever scores or sets up an easy touchdown or points via the special teams will win this game, and I will go with Baylor.
I think that this is going to be a tight one. I think the one advantage in my mind that Kansas State has over Baylor right now is they do some of the little things better than Baylor does, the little things that have undone games for Baylor this year. But Baylor doesn't win in Morgantown. Kansas State has a really hard time. It's not quite as bad, but winning in Waco. And so I like to lean to those historical trends a lot of the time. And this Baylor team has shown me something the last few weeks that they didn't have early in the season. I'm taking Baylor at home at night in the blackout in a great atmosphere.
I mean, y'all want a historical trend? How about that Baylor's won 4 in a row?
Yeah.
I mean, there's the historical trend for you as well, as they've won this no matter their ups and downs they've had. I think Baylor and Kansas State are very similar teams. I like Baylor's passing game a little bit better and trust Shapen more than I do Adrian Martinez. I think that the Baylor defense needs to have some pride and be a bit better against the run. If they can do that and not bottle up or stop Deuce Vaughn or Adrian Martinez, but if they can just limit that and get into we're going to run versus your run and get stops versus your stops, I like their chances. I like their chances at home on a Saturday night. They've got all the advantages. I think they've got the advantage as far as what tips you in one direction or the other. So, I go Baylor here.
Yep, I'll take Baylor. Also, and Adrian Martinez and Deuce Vaughn, if you don't grab them, and if it was anything like we saw in West Virginia or a couple other times, then, you're going to have a long day, even if you do tackle well. Texas Tech at home against Kansas in a game that has not gotten a lot of attention, but obviously critical. Texas Tech needs a win. Kansas is feeling really good, and they should after winning last week against Oklahoma State to become bowl eligible.
Yeah, I picked Kansas here because, 1, they're on a roll. 2, Texas Tech is not in 3. I don't know who's going to play quarterback for Texas Tech. And if it's anybody other than Baron Morton, I'm lukewarm on them right now at this point in the season. So I like Kansas, especially if – and I don't know if he is or not. I mean, they might be just throwing him out there to mess with everybody's head. But if Jalen Daniels can get back and play for this Kansas team, they might have more than one win left in them for the rest of the season. So he's a difference maker. Of course, Jason Beaton was great last week against a really banged-up Oklahoma State team that was totally out of gas and without their starting quarterback. But I'm picking the Jayhawks here. I like him to at least have a little mini streak here before the schedule, again, continues to get tough for them on the way out.
Does Paul pick against Kansas anymore?
No.
Have we kept track of this?
No, I picked against him.
I was making sure.
Yeah, it was back before you went to Hawaii. It was before you went to Hawaii.
She could not, like I said before, she could not care less about the football team. She's excited about it, but again.
Who is she?
Amanda, my fiance.
Right, good.
She was, by the way, at lunchtime today watching the championship game. Again.
The KU men's basketball.
Yeah, she's seen that more than I've seen A Few Good Men, and I've seen A Few Good Men a lot.
Wow.
Hey, I bet Baylor fans have watched their championship game a ton.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the outlier here. Texas Tech's undefeated at home. This game's in Lubbock. They need a win desperately. And I think Kansas, great win for them last week, but I don't foresee Devin Neal having 300-plus all-purpose yards, even though I don't really trust the Tech defense a ton. He might have a big day, but I default to them at home. I default to the fact they have to get a win here to really feel like they can even make a bowl game, which I know is like first-year head coach. It's whatever if you do or not. At least that was what the talk was in the preseason. I was pretty adamant that I felt like they had a team that they could go make a bowl game this year. And they're going to be, cutting it close. KU's already got theirs. It's not like they're coming to this game like super, like we got to get a win, but Tech does. So if they can't get one tomorrow, like this is their best bet, I think, remaining. Although, do they play Oklahoma State? I think Tech does play Oklahoma State, which who the heck knows with them. Yeah. But, just give me Joey.
I think, have they not played them? I
don't recall.
Yeah, no, they lost. Yeah. They lost to them, yeah.
That was a close one.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so maybe this is the easiest remaining game. I can't remember who their other two are.
Tech has Texas. Kansas has Texas. I'm sorry. I'm telling you right now. Right now, I'm getting it up.
You keep saying that.
They have Iowa State and Oklahoma left.
Yeah.
Okay. Iowa State might be the easier win. We'll see. Defensively, not. But anyways, give me Tech at home.
I'm taking Kansas. I think that they'll play free and easy. That doesn't mean they're going to get undisciplined. I think the win they had last week, I think that helps you just kind of breathe a little bit more. And I think that they'll play free and easy, and they're going to need to because Texas Tech's going to try to do that. But I will take Kansas to win. I think they maybe, when they were 5-0 and then all of a sudden 5-3, are they going to win? They did. And now I think that they're going to win another game. Good luck to Joey McGuire and Tech to get bowl eligible. And then depends on who you are. This game has national implications, no question about it. Big 12 championship type implications. Texas at home, a favorite against the Frogs.
I am picking the Frogs here for two reasons. One, I need to, make some moves here, and I thought you guys were also all going to pick North Carolina, but I'm going with the team of destiny thing here, and it's the first half versus second half thing that goes on where Texas is really good in the first half. They're not so good in the second half. And their mirror image is TCU, who's not good in the first half, but really good in the second half when it matters. So I'm going to take that trend as TCU in the second half gets this done on the road.
What if they're down 30 at halftime?
I don't think that's going to happen. Okay,
but they'll come back and make it a game by the end if history holds.
They'll win 41-38. Yeah.
So, all right. But that's why.
All right, Craig. Okay, Paul, very, very interesting. Thank you, Craig.
Yeah, I think TCU's a really, really good team. This is nothing against them. This is the fact that it's a huge game for the Longhorns down in Austin, college game day. They're feeling themselves. And I don't think that this is a team where TCU can just expect to score points and not have any answered. You know what I mean? I think that however it ends up starting off, you're going to have to really shut the door on Texas to keep them from scoring points and grinding it out with Bijan or hitting a big explosive play. And I think TCU in most games this year has been the most explosive team, right? They've been the more explosive team pretty much every time. They might still be more explosive than Texas, but I don't think it's by much as maybe versus others. I think that Bijan in the ground game is really what sold me on this, although Kendry Miller and TCU have a really good ground game as well. I think it'll be a fascinating little chess match, but I default to just kind of the buzz growing in Austin right now, having home field and the big buildup for this one. I think they're really feeling that momentum. And, TCU has just looked right for the taking. I mean, you look at several games this year where they could have gotten wiped out. And towards the end, they're always able to make enough plays. And I think eventually that runs out. I don't think you can do that start to finish throughout the year. So this is a ripe opportunity where, you get down. You're not going to be able to necessarily make that comeback. Although I say all that, and Sark's teams are the absolute worst as far as giving up second-half comebacks. So something's got to give here, and maybe there's no comeback needed. Maybe somebody just takes control and holds on throughout the game. I'm really looking forward to watching how this goes and unfolds. But, give me Texas at home.
Let me tell you something. Last week when they played on the road, Texas, against Kansas State, it was coming off that throttling of Oklahoma State. Texas starts well. They start very, very well. And that's a great game plan and scheme and all that. But it's amazing that even that game that they had total control of, that Kansas State's in their territory late in the game with a chance to tie it up. It's really crazy. The Dr. Jekyll. I don't know about Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, but the mentality of the first half for success compared to the second half, and they kind of let Kansas State hang around a little bit, like they did Oklahoma State. That one bit them. That did not. I just feel like Texas is, and this is not me jumping on the fact that we do this and then they did just pop the bubble. I just think they're really playing good football, and to me, the difference is how well and physical and how intense they're playing on defense. And I love their linebacker, as I said earlier in this week, in Jalen Ford. So I'll take the Horns. North Carolina, Mac Brown, Wake Forest, ACC.
This game will not have tackling.
Yeah.
It's not going to – it might – it's just I think that Mac Brown and Dave Clawson will get together and be like, look, we'll do it, but – let's keep it to a minimum. They don't. Neither of these teams play great defense at most of the time. I'm sure they've had their moments, but this is a huge rivalry game. Wake and North Carolina. These two schools do not like each other, and these two fan bases don't like each other. And I think it's going to be a great one. I am leaning with the young buck at quarterback here in Drake May over the wily veteran in Sam Hartman. Both these guys are super fun to watch. I think outside of, unless you have C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young, Sam Hartman to me would be like an automatic, I want that guy as a quarterback on my team. He is so savvy and so good and does so many things well. Now, I know against Louisville a couple weeks ago, he's going to have his mind wiped Men in Black style to forget that game, but I still love what he does on the field. I love what Drake May does on the field, but I'm leaning Tar Heels here. I'm just they're playing better right now than Wake Forest is.
Yeah, their defense sucks. Drake May's awesome, but the Tar Heels defense is atrocious. And I'm not saying that Wake Forest is by any means like kings of the castle when it comes to playing defense either. This is going to be a really high-scoring game, and whoever's defense plays better might be the deciding factor in this one. Wake Forest has got to limit the turnovers. That is really a killer, or has been a killer for them. UNC is a team that maybe now they're starting to get a little bit of attention. It certainly feels like Drake May is. He's fun to watch. This will be a great quarterback duo, as you said, but Wake Forest is at home. I think they're a more complete team, and I think that having a pretty good quarterback negates some of the other side having this, this rising star of a quarterback. I think Wake Forest has got a pretty good one too. So, yeah, I default to them. I just think, all of the factors ultimately just having a bit better, I think, complete package and being at home, I go Demon Deacons here.
I didn't know they were playing at home because I obviously didn't pay attention to Oklahoma playing at West Virginia, but I just feel like Wake Forest is not much. They're not a complete team. How do you play a game without tackling? So you're talking this is going to be 48-42?
Bet the over.
Okay.
Bet the over. This one's going to have a ton of points scored. Neither of these defenses are really good. Wake's might be like, if you wanted to have like a skills competition, Wake's probably, Craig's right, a little beyond on that one. I just think that they've been a little bit better. North Carolina's just been a little bit better lately.
Someone just said to me on a direct message on Twitter, how can you pick